This case file, Alien Theorists Theorizing treads the thin line between legal luminary and legal labyrinth as they welcome author Brandon Joe Willams to the show. A self-described foreign national of the Amnesty Coalition, Brandon offers his views on the often perplexing legal parlance of parts of the U.S. Code and how they make for possible cracks in the concept of U.S. citizenry. The views and opinions of our guests are not necessarily the views held by the theorists themselves and should not be interpreted as professional, legal, or financial advice.
Welcome to Alien Theorists Theorizing, Casefile 301. The secrets of tax evasion. I don't know what we call this one. We didn't come up with a title beforehand. We didn't discuss it.
That's it. I love it.
It's perfect.
I'm Brayden.
Oh my God.
I'm Dan.
That's horrible.
And I'm Andrew.
And our very special guest this evening, we have Brandon Joe Willams. He is what would be considered a state national of California, author and common law lawyer, and founder of the Amnesty Coalition, a group that aims to address the slave state framework that is created by webs of legal contracts and documents like birth certificates, social security cards, and the U.S. citizen fraud system. There's more to it, but we are going to bring him on and discuss everything about it. Welcome to the show, Brandon Joe Willams.
Hi, guys.
Quick question off the top. As a man with a similar name as me, how is your name as frustrating as mine to talk to people and introduce yourself? Like, do they get it right every time?
No, they always think I say they always think I say Brian.
Brian.
Oh, Brian.
Wow. Yeah.
Nice to meet you, Brian. I'm like, you know what?
Sure.
Why not?
Sure.
I get Brandon, and I've got a Craig once.
Oh, Craig. That's a good one.
Yeah. So
did you say Braden? You Craig? It's Craig?
Yeah, Craig. It's
you
the
look like a
behind
Craig,
his name.
though.
I don't know.
It's like,
What
hi, my name is Braden. And they're like, oh, Horatio. What a pleasure to meet you.
Yeah, like, what was that? And you're like, sometimes I'm so baffled. I'm just like, yeah, whatever. Do whatever you want.
Then they try to convince you that your name is Craig. Oh, well, you look like a Craig. Like, okay, but it's
I met a Craig once.
So what are we talking about today, Brandon Joe? We're keeping it terrestrial. Normally we're out in space and, deep in the government, but today you got something a little different for us.
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't know how much you guys have heard about a lot of this kind of stuff. Have you guys heard a lot about this? The difference between citizen and national definition of citizen.
It's come up, but yeah, I haven't really never done too deep.
No, I don't know, because three of us are from Canada, so it's a little, things are a little different up here. So like that kind of terminology stuff is associated with people that are referred to as like freemen of the land here. And I don't know if I don't know if that's like a strictly Canadian term, a West Canadian term. Like, I don't know if that's a term, but like when I've heard this things about like fictitious people and stuff like that's where that in Canada, they're called like freemen of the land. So I just wasn't sure if it's the same, if they cross borders, you know what I mean?
I guess
this kind of stuff.
I guess what's a state national then?
Well, it's so. Do you mind if I do a screen share? Would you guys mind if I just showed you a few things?
Sure. Let's go.
Let's do it up.
PG,
probably the easiest way to do it. Then.
Or at least under 18.
Yeah. So for people are going to be audio only. If you want to check out the stream, we'll make sure.
Oh, they're going to be. There's audio only too. Okay. What percentage is audio only?
Well, we can describe what you show. It's all good.
Okay. Good.
What you're looking at is the infinite matrix of our faces.
You're looking at the infinite matrix.
So 28
this
USC
all works the same
3002.
Way. Yeah, 28 USC 3002, subsection 15. Now, this all works the same as far as I know for Canada as well. Okay, so subsection 15, United States means, definition A, a federal corporation. Then we're going to find out where is that corporation located. We're going to go to UCC 9-307. We're going to go down to subsection H.
God damn. The boldness of this guy to just pull open his browser and have all his tabs ready to go.
Yeah, you never know what kind of ads are going to pop up there, bro. With his favorite
sites. I was like, holy, I was sweating for him.
We're about to get, Braden gets foot fungus cream all the time. So
there we go. So this is the location of the United States. And as far as I know, because I have a lot of people digging around in Canada, it's the same exact thing in Canada. So Canada is a federal corporation that's located in the District of Columbia. So there's two Canadas, there's two United States. The benefit of the United States is we actually have two different names for them. It's United States is the corporation located in the District of Columbia. United States of America is actually what is considered the 50 independent nation states of the Union. So you guys actually have it a lot worse than we do, because you also don't really have any other option besides Canadian citizen. But in America, we have two different options. We have the U.S. citizen, and then we also have, I'll pull up what's called an employment verification form. And you can see we have another one called so box A is a citizen of the United States. Box B, a non-citizen national of the United States. And what people don't realize is that in America, only, I think it's passports are only issued to nationals. Let's see here.
Now, is that, because I just reading that, I didn't read the subsection. So the second one was nationals of
a non-citizen national of the United States.
So it's a non-citizen national.
So a citizen would be like a registered member of the corporation, is what you're saying, and a non-citizen national would just be a person who lives in the United States.
Yeah, so I'll cover that with you guys. So basically, we've already figured out what is United States. We've already figured out where is United States. Okay. So now what we do is we go to 42 USC 9102. And we're going to figure out, well, if that's where the United States is located, then what is a U.S. citizen, right? Subsection 18 right here. United States citizen means any individual who is a citizen of the United States by law, birth, or naturalization, okay? And I believe it works the same way in Canada. It's just, you guys just don't have an exit door. You guys are just a lot more fucked. So if you look at law means by contract. Birth means you were born in the District of Columbia, but that's easy to fix. That's not really a big deal at all. If you currently live in the District of Columbia, you can't be a non-citizen national. You have to not be living in the District of Columbia. Okay.
So what's the District of Columbia?
It's a foreign corporate zone. It's a completely foreign country to the United States of America.
It's like the Vatican in Italy.
It's kind of like the exact same idea.
Does that make it different from like what considered like the U.S. Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico, and some of those ones, like American Samoa?
So Guam, American Samoa, Puerto Rico, the Virgin Islands, these are considered U.S. territories. So the way it works is U.S. territories are territories that are directly controlled by United States, which means the District of Columbia. So there's actually two different countries in the United States of America. There's the 50 independent nation states, which are all unincorporated, which is called the United States of America or the Republic or America. And then you have Washington, D.C., which is called United States, or technically it's an undisclosed location inside of Washington, D.C. is called United States. But for ease of use, we just say it's called United States. And then that United States has U.S. territories that it directly controls. And actually, in terms of jurisdiction, the only areas that the federal government in America actually has jurisdiction over the people is in those zones, such as Puerto Rico, Guam, the Virgin Islands, right? So the way that they get jurisdiction over everybody is through actually this term, naturalization. This is actually the big, huge monster exit door right here. And I'll explain how it works. So if we go to the definition of naturalization, which comes from 8 USC 1101, subsection A23, which is right around here. And we're going to find out what naturalization means. This is the most mind-blowing thing, man. This one right here. This is like totally crazy. So the term naturalization means the conferring of nationality of a state upon a person after birth by any means whatsoever. And I honestly wouldn't be shocked at all if you dug through Canadian legal codes. You're going to find this exact same definition for naturalization. What this means is whenever you say you're a U.S. citizen in any official capacity, you're actually naturalizing. You're actually conferring nationality of a state. Definition of state is anything. It doesn't need to be one of the 50 states or in Canada, one of the provinces. It's actually just the definition of state is literally just any body of individuals. They don't even need to have a specific location. They don't even need to have a specific territory. It's just a body of individuals that operate in a really tranquil way internally, and then they also operate externally with good diplomatic relations. And I'm not going to get into all that because that's how these podcasts usually become 2 hours rather than one. It's kind of a bit of a rabbit hole that I have to take you down to get you to the point to understand what that means, because state and nation mean the same thing. I dug through all these court cases. I found this court case where they finally figured out what the hell a nation was, and they clarify it, and it's like the most beautiful definition ever. But it's like a long definition. So it's basically good tranquility internally, and then good diplomatic relations and good tranquility externally. And then they use the example in the court case of like a pirate ship wouldn't be considered a nation because they don't have good intentions and they don't spread tranquility externally. So a pirate ship wouldn't have the right to be considered a state or a nation. So a state or a nation is anything. It's not necessarily just the 50 states or just the provinces. It could be anything. It could be your job. It could be your family. It could be anything.
It could be your favorite cult. If they have good intentions.
Yeah, it could be. Well, they have to factually. So the way it works in America is, in order for it to be considered, this is actually another huge secret that I found, the definition of the term foreign government, right? So the term foreign government includes any government, faction, or body of insurgents within a country with which the United States is at peace. And this is the most important part, irrespective of recognition by the United States. So if you go on my website and you want to see some of these definitions super fast.
It's a great fucking website, by the way, onestupidfuck.com. It's amazing.
Thank you.
How did you get that?
I like your other website.
I had it for like a year. I just didn't know what I was going to do with it yet.
I'm surprised that was available.
Yeah, well, I bought myfaceasachair.com too, so that's the one I use for the ladies. I've got a bunch of goofy URLs. I fucking love that shit. So peace, right? So in order to have a foreign government, it has to be at peace, right? So you think to yourself, like, what the hell? Okay, peace. Everybody's got a different idea what that is, right? It's kind of the same thing. It plugs in because here's the definition of nation that I was telling you, right, from this court case, right? I basically explained it to you, but there it is. And then here's peace, right? So I'll read this because peace and nation mean pretty much the same thing. The tranquility enjoyed by a political society, internally by the good order which reigns among its members, and externally by the good understanding it has with all other nations. Applied to the internal regulations of a nation, peace imports, in a technical sense, not merely a state of repose and security as one opposed to one of violence or warfare, but likewise a state of public order and decorum. So it's the same thing. It's sort of like good internal tranquility and then good diplomatic relations that create external tranquility. So what I'm trying to say here, and what the U.S. Code is trying to say, is that if you confer, let's say you wanted to confer the nationality of, I'm not kidding when I say this, I always do this with all these shows, of the name of your show, because I don't know how many people you have that watch your show, but Alien Theories Theorizing, right? Sorry, what's the name of the show again?
You had it just a little backwards.
Alien Theorists Theorizing.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay. So you could actually confer the nationality of the state, which is nation. You could call it the nation of Alien Theorists Theorizing. You would actually confer that nationality upon yourself. And actually, it's even crazier because you can actually, it doesn't say upon yourself, it says upon a person. You can actually confer nationality of a state upon other people. I wouldn't do that. Well,
Brandon Joe Willams,
welcome.
Today's your lucky day.
Yeah. I wouldn't recommend you do that. I imagine you could probably get in trouble with that. But
you know what? We were looking for some new...
Technically, that's the law.
We were looking for some new Patreon tiers, and I think you might have unlocked one for us here.
There you go.
Citizenship.
Well, no, it'd be a citizenship / ambassador. So once you become a foreign government, which you just do that by literally conferring nationality of the state upon yourself after birth by any means whatsoever, and then you're at peace. So you're officially, it's official because it's irrespective of recognition. as long as you're at peace with the United States, which means with the District of Columbia, then you are officially a foreign government. So once you do that, you become what's called a national.
I mean, if you go through our reviews, we do get a lot of slander from the states, so I don't know if we technically qualify for that.
We're not.
Peace is interesting because if you're not at peace, then you wouldn't have a foreign government. You would have essentially what the government would consider a terrorist cell or God knows what. Seriously, truly, like this 18 USC 11 foreign government defined. This is it, man. This is the tightrope. You're either on the tightrope or you're off of it. Like if you're not at peace and you don't fit the definition of peace as per the legal definition, I don't know, man. That's some dangerous ground there, brother.
The bombs be coming.
Yeah. So once you confer nationality of a state upon yourself. Now, again, we're going back to the definition of United States citizen, naturalization, right? Naturalization is pretty much how everyone became a United States citizen, because when you fill out a W-9 tax form, you just naturalized because you said under penalty of perjury that you are a U.S. citizen or other U.S. person. When you sign up for voter registration, you are signing under penalty of perjury that you are a U.S. citizen. When you go to the Department of Motor Vehicles and you get yourself a driver's license or you renew your driver's license, one of the questions on the application form or the renewal form is, are you a U.S. citizen? And you can choose between the yes bubble or the no bubble. If you choose yes, you are, by definition, naturalizing into the District of Columbia. So what's happening is that we go through our whole lives naturalizing over and over and over and over. All they're doing is just asking the question. They're putting out the trap, and then we confer nationality of the state of the District of Columbia upon ourselves after birth by any means whatsoever, over and over and over and over. And it's the same thing in Canada.
So if you don't naturalize, you don't have to pay taxes.
If you don't naturalize, well, you can naturalize anywhere. So if you look at the UN Declaration of Human Rights, which, I know you guys aren't a fan of the UN, and I'm pretty much not either, but there is some stuff that they have that's really useful.
That's proof.
Right?
That's
For example,
UN's proof of the flat earth.
UN's proof of a lot of things. But if you look at Article 15 of the UN Declaration of Human Rights, Section 2, no one shall be arbitrarily deprived of his nationality and denied the right to change his nationality. So you can naturalize to anywhere you want as many times as you want without absolutely any difficulties. And we've already proven that.
Can you unnaturalize?
Because when
you can unnaturalize, yes. But the thing is that the way it works is if you naturalize into the District of Columbia, you are a U.S. citizen. Or actually in Canada, it would be the same thing, because as far as I know, Canada is a federal corporation that's also located in the District of Columbia. So a Canadian citizen would be the same thing. You're conferring nationality of the state of the District of Columbia upon yourself after birth by any means whatsoever. Now in America, we have a different choice called a non-citizen national or a national, right? So if you confer nationality of any other state, whether it be the state of alien theorists theorizing, or whether it be the state of Arizona, or whether it be the state of literally anything, you can make it up, or it can be one of the 50 states or whatever. It just wouldn't be the District of Columbia or United States or anything like that. You would now be called a national or non-citizen national, which means a person owing permanent allegiance to a state. Now in America, those people are recognized as basically they're legal to be here, and it's basically like the difference is if you look in 26 CFR 1.871-1, which is one of the main areas where they classify.
Do you got sticky notes on your computer? You just got these memorized.
I was just going to ask the same thing.
No, I got everything. I can stand in front of a jury drunk with this shit. Easy.
The question I had is with the non-citizen national, does that mean that like Dan brought up America, Samoa and stuff, places that aren't, those people they're already non-citizen nationals, they don't have citizenships because people born after they were kind of brought into the United States umbrella. So are they already reaping the benefits? Because my understanding, and I'm not from the States, I have no idea. My understanding was that that term on there was for those kind of people that fall into these like territories they're not really part of the states, but they're like under the umbrella. I don't even understand how that really works. But are those people already reaping these benefits that you're claiming you can get?
Well, yeah, because they're not citizens. Now, the only thing is that it's crazy because what is naturalization? It's the conferring of nationality of a state upon a person after birth by any means whatsoever. So if someone who was a non-citizen national, which we all are when we're born in one of the 50 states, technically, says they are a citizen of the United States, you just became a citizen of the United States.
You don't have to take an oath. So you just got to click the box.
There's no oath. Yeah. There's a citizenship process, but that's a whole different thing. That's a whole different thing. And technically speaking, if you haven't gone through that whole massive citizenship process, you aren't really a citizen, but you actually are, because naturalization is literally that simple.
Well,
and people ask me like,
if we're saying that though, if we're saying that where it's like, if you haven't gone through the process, if you're going through the process, you have to do the process anyways. But if you're just saying like anyone, I could say that I'm a citizen right now. It doesn't mean anything if I don't do the actual physical process to become an American citizen, right?
Actually, like, no, we've already tested that. I've got Russians with Russian birth certificates that are writing in, and we attach what's called an explanatory statement to the DS-11 passport application form. And they were never born in America and they aren't citizens. And we're getting them approved passports as non-citizen nationals by simply having them submit an affidavit that confers nationality of a state upon themselves after birth by any means whatsoever.
So they get an American passport, but they're not an American citizen.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Now this gets crazier because then you think to yourself, well, are all these supposed foreigners that are jumping the border, are any of them really illegal? Because technically this is technically how it could be going down. I have no information on this whatsoever, but if there was a line of people from Guatemala and the guy at the border said, "Are you a US citizen?" and they said yes, then technically they just naturalized. So, are you a US citizen? Yes, you can go. Are you a US citizen? Yes, you can go. Are you a US citizen? Yes, you can go. Are they doing that? I have no idea.
So if you say no, then you get to the dog kennel.
I don't know. I just don't know. Like, I don't know. It's just kind of one of those things that comes up on a lot of these shows. Like, how does that work? And I just don't know. But literally, naturalization is the conferring of nationality of a state upon a person, to the point where you could even do it on your kids or technically even on another person. But like I said, I wouldn't recommend that. After birth by any means whatsoever. So then we go to, what are the classes of alien individual that is...
Wouldn't that apply to kids who are like adopted? Like kids who have been adopted? Wouldn't that apply to mostly like kids who are adopted? Like from out of the country?
You would
like
think so, but that's not how the code works. The code is literally just... I mean, here's the code, man.
Or like
naturalization.
Or like, yeah, but what about like, because I'm a former military veteran, and it's like we would have they had a certain naturalization process through military service. Like that's also available.
Yeah, there's a lot of different things that, you know, but the thing is that naturalization is literally just this easy. Like it's everything else that you're ever going to see about naturalization is just, I don't know what it is, but it's not what, I mean, we've already tested this. I mean, literally, like you can just confer nationality on your kids or on yourself.
So I guess
you've actually secured passports for these people, and they've traveled with, and they've used them.
Yeah.
Well,
people who hit me up and they're like, I'm in the middle of a green card. I'm in the middle of this. I'm in the middle of that. I'm like, dude, just confer nationality of a state upon yourself after birth by any means whatsoever. It's, you know, so you could have an affidavit and it says, you know, affidavit of naturalization as per 8 USC 1101 subsection A23. Now I have them submit their Russian birth certificates. And the reason why is because it says here after birth. And you say to yourself, oh, well, duh. Like if you're writing to them, you're born. I don't assume nothing, bro. I send the birth certificate, Russian birth certificate, Italian birth certificate. I don't give a fuck. Proof that you were born and proof that your affidavit is now after birth. Right. And you just write in there, you know, as per USC 1101 subsection A23, I am hereby naturalizing by conferring the nationality of the state of California or the California Republic upon myself. I have attached a Russian birth certificate that shows that I have in fact been born. Please issue me a fee passport. Regular. It's called a regular pass. There's a bunch of different types of passports too, which we're not going to get into on this show because you're trying to keep it a little short. But a regular passport. Please issue me a fee regular passport. Thank you very much, and get it notarized and attach it to the DS-11 form. There's a special way you need to fill out the DS-11 form. I mean, you would also want to put in the explanatory statement too, like I'm not trying to be a citizen. I don't want to be a citizen. I'm not associated with the District of Columbia, but I'm actually just naturalizing as a non-citizen national of the California Republic. Please issue me a non-citizen national passport. Regular fee passport.
Right.
I mean, it could be that short. And you would get that notarized, and then you would fill out the DS-11 in a certain way, which I teach how to do that on my free contract killer course, or there's a lot of places online you can find it. And we're getting passports doing this.
Okay, so yeah, because we're going to try and keep it around an hour, but I guess the big question is: so you do all this work, you remove yourself as a citizen of the U.S., and you become you removed yourself from the system. What's the why? Like, what do you get? What's the point? What's the end
Well, there's
game?
a lot of points. The biggest point is that a U.S. citizen, someone who lives in the District of Columbia, isn't actually an American. And that's why you've got everybody running around saying like, oh, the Constitution, like I have rights. But they go into a courtroom and they just laugh at them like, you don't have any rights. You're fucking retarded, because they are. Because a U.S. citizen doesn't have any rights, doesn't have the Bill of Rights, doesn't have the right to free speech, doesn't have the right to bear arms, doesn't have any of those things.
So you can't buy a gun if you're a citizen?
Well, you can buy a firearm, but what's protected by the Second Amendment? It's not a firearm.
Arms.
Right to arm bears.
Bear arms.
So arms are held by non-citizen nationals. Firearms are held by U.S. citizens.
Yeah, but
that's why the ATF is alcohol, tobacco, and firearms.
We got that. You can still go buy a gun. Like, it does, who cares if you call it an arm or a firearm? Dan could go out right now and buy an AR-15 as a citizen.
Dan actually might have a whole bunch of AR-15s in his back. Porch.
Yeah, you can buy a firearm if you are approved to buy that firearm, and if that firearm is within the specs of ATF regulation.
So if you're not a citizen, you can buy any gun.
If you're a non-citizen national, you wouldn't have to do any of that.
So you could
build whatever you want. You could do whatever you want. You could carry whatever you want. You don't need a concealed carry permit because you have the right to bear arms.
So hypothetically, you build this technically illegal gun and you get pulled over by the cops. And their guns drawn, and you got this fucking fully automatic gun in the passenger seat. Like, listen, boys, it's all legal. How does this work?
Well, first and foremost, they would never know that it's fully automatic unless you told them. You'd be waiving your Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. So first and foremost, how would they know that it's a fully automatic arm versus a firearm? That's the first thing, right?
Well-trained eye.
Don't tell them.
Yeah.
No, you can, there's a lot of ways to build a fully automatic firearm and you'll never know. There's like fucking million different ways of doing it. You could take anyways, I'm not going to get into that because I don't want to, there's a lot of ways to build a fully automatic AR-15.
It just seems like we're kind of on in this weird trajectory where it's like, you can do this legally, but you're like, you don't tell them it's fully automatic. Because that's illegal.
It's not about why would you waive your Fifth Amendment right? Why would you hand them the evidence they need to do what they think they may need to do?
But shouldn't it not matter though? Right?
It doesn't matter. But why would you? But still, why would you tell them? It doesn't make any sense to me.
I'm just saying that. Say someone looks at it and go, "I know that's a fully automatic," and they pinch you on it.
Let's simplify. Let's simplify it. You get pulled over. They see this gun. They don't know it's fully automatic. You're in a state where you have to provide documentation. I don't know how gun control works in the States. I'm assuming it's different per state, but you have to have, like, I guess if say you need a license to carry open carry, let's say, and they're like, hey, where's your license for this gun? And you go, I don't need a license because Like what? I'm just curious of how does one go about this?
Well, that all comes down to, like you have to actually be able to know this stuff and handle yourself. And the thing is, a lot of the cops don't know. So it's all over the map what's going to happen. There's some people who, things happen. There's some people that don't. But at the end of the day, when it gets into a courtroom, see, the thing is that, I always say the same thing to everybody. Court is not held on the side of the road. So I don't care. You can do whatever you want. You can take my shit. You can do whatever you want. And then I'm going to go where it actually matters. And I'm going to win where it actually matters, which is in the courtroom. You see, the courtroom abides by the law to a tremendously specific degree. On the side of the road, the law is only to the extent of what the police officer is aware of.
Could be a cowboy police officer too.
Yeah, generally speaking, the police don't really know a whole lot about this. You got to keep in mind too, just like there's arms and firearms, just like there's U.S. citizens and non-citizen nationals, there's also the sheriff and there's also the police, which are two entirely different ends of the spectrum. The police is the corporate side. The sheriff is the non-corporate side. The unincorporated side. That's why there's two police forces in America. So the sheriffs are more familiar with this than the police are, and that's probably by design. Okay, so with a sheriff, I'd probably have a lot more success rate than I would with a police officer.
Because they might be privy to this.
Well, sheriffs are publicly elected officials.
Sheriffs are also publicly elected. But the history of the sheriff's office and the power of the sheriff's office is tremendous because it goes way before all this incorporated craziness got started. The sheriff's office is one of the oldest installations still around in all of America. But anyways, let me show you this because I wanted to show you this about taxation, right? So in America, there's two types of tax classifications. There's resident aliens and non-resident aliens, right? Now, it's really simple. Resident alien is somebody who lives in the District of Columbia. Non-resident alien is somebody who does not. So a U.S. citizen would be a resident alien. A non-citizen national would be a non-resident alien individual. Non-resident alien individuals are taxable only on certain income from sources within the District of Columbia. And there's a second part, and on income, blah, blah, blah. But when you dig into this, it doesn't really go anywhere. It's almost like they just put this here as like a little bit of a smokescreen. So we just run off of this. So basically, if let's say as a non-citizen national, let's say I was a defense contractor and I was making a shitload of money working directly for the government, that specific income that I make would be taxable. But anything that would not be directly and explicitly from the District of Columbia would not be taxable. But what happens is, just like naturalization, there's a section here. However, non-resident alien individuals may elect to be treated as U.S. residents for purposes of determining their income tax liability. So it's the same exact thing. It all works on a volunteer basis. You volunteer to be a U.S. citizen through naturalization. You also volunteered to be treated as a U.S. resident for purposes of determining your income tax liability when you submitted your first W-9 form in America, which says that you're a U.S. citizen, probably back when you had your first like fast food job or whatever. So all you do is you actually do something called a revocation of election. And this is actually an Internal Revenue Service term. It's not even some made up bullshit term. It's actually like a real term that even the IRS uses, right? And you can actually write in to the IRS and you can actually say through an affidavit or whatnot, you can say, hey, back when I was a kid and I was working at Pizza Hut, I didn't realize that I was filling out a W-9 and electing to be treated as though I'm a U.S. resident for purposes of determining my income tax liability as per Title 26 of the Code of Federal Regulations 1.871-1. And I hereby am updating my records with you guys. And the thing is that I've never lived in the United States. I've never lived in the District of Columbia. And I'm actually revoking this election that I made back when I was probably 18 years old. I'm revoking that election all the way from the inception of that election, right? Every once in a while, it's pretty rare, you'll actually get a letter back from the IRS that specifically says, thank you for submitting your revocation of election. There's nothing else that you need to do. And they that's pretty rare though. And I have a bit of a joke where I say, I have a feeling they get dragged into a back room and murdered whenever anybody sends one of those because it's very rare. I've only seen two. But one of my people actually sent me one that they had gotten recently, and I was like blown away. I was like, oh my God. And here it is right here. Their personal information was removed, but I did verify that it matched their information. It's someone who I kind of know via a lot of online stuff, right? Dear taxpayer, thank you for your correspondence, which we received on May 10th, 2023. We received your revocation of election on date above. We reviewed the information provided and determined no action is necessary on your account.
Yeah, but all that means is they've looked and they went, yeah, we don't have to do anything. They did nothing. Like that's what no action is necessary.
Where's
on your
the tax
account.
refund?
That's just them saying
no,
we've looked. We don't have to make any changes.
Go back and you have to actually file the refunds using a 1040X.
Right.
They're not going to send you shit.
So I just want to pause for a second. So pretty much what you're saying is the United States is in District of Columbia. And when you click the box, technically now you are part of the District of Columbia, even though you could live anywhere in the country. All right. We're just going to take a short break as we wrap our minds around this. We'll be right back. That's good.
Yeah, you can actually naturalize into.
So by checking that box, now they can use this blanket term United States on no matter where you are in the country or surrounding territories to say you're in this self-governed district within the Republic of the States. And by doing that, then they can legally tax you whatever the tax rate is. But if you opt out, then you're not under it.
They don't really even, I mean, if you think about it, you send all the information into the IRS. You send everything to them. You hand them everything on a silver platter. You give them all the information you need. You tell them what you spent your money on. You tell them where you spent your money. You tell them when you spent your money. You tell them how much you owe. You tell them everything. So you got to think like they never told you anything. And actually, the more you dig into how the IRS actually works is the reason why they don't say anything about the ROE or literally anything else. They don't say anything about anything. All the IRS does is accept the information that you gave them, and then if you don't pay them what you told them you were going to pay them, they come after you. Or if you submit information that you tell them, and there's like obviously something fucked up with what you sent them to the point where it looks like you're obviously these things are not adding up.
Wesley Snipes.
They hit you with an audit, but they hit you with an audit based off of the information that you sent them that looked like shit. It's like... The IRS doesn't do anything, bro. They literally don't do anything. They literally just sit there.
If you didn't ever send them anything, wouldn't they come after you eventually?
No. There's literally sections in the Internal Revenue Code where there's absolutely no, you don't have to submit them to them absolutely any form. There's no laws or rules. You have to submit to them absolutely anything. Even the forms that we use, the W-8BEN forms, which is the forms that you use as a foreign beneficiary, which is what a non-citizen national is. Technically speaking, you don't even need to send them that. Technically speaking, you don't need to send them shit.
Hey, I felt
then how did they take out
the
Blade?
W-8BEN as well from Canada when I do cross-border work.
So that's the same form that we fill out in the States.
Okay.
Because United States is a foreign country from Republic of California or whatever.
Andrew, what were you saying?
Well, I was just say, what happened to Blade then?
Yeah, what did happen?
It's the only way they took him down.
Wesley Snipes.
Well, he was obviously giving them too much bad information. No, he wasn't. He didn't file it. That's what it's from.
Wesley Snipes, if you actually dig into that case, it's a fucking mess. They were actually going to hire this dude who is badass called Dave Champion. And they called up
a great name.
Have you ever seen this guy? This dude's fucking badass. He has a book called Income Tax Destroying the Myths or something like that. It's badass. He's got like tattoos everywhere on his arms. He's like he's baldy.
Oh yeah, he's cool. Yeah,
he's a badass dude.
Speaking our language.
Baldy, yeah, boy.
Yeah.
Baldy tattoos. Let's go.
So Dave Champion, he actually has a whole story about that whole thing, and they called him and they were like, "Hey, we want to do this." I forget, it's called like a 93 position or some stupid shit. And Dave was like, "You guys are fucking retarded and you're all going to go to jail if you do that." And they were like, "No, fuck you, Dave. Like, you don't get it, blah, blah, blah." And they went and they did it. And that's your Wesley Snipes story. You can look up Dave Champion. He's got the whole story about how he got contacted and the whole thing. It's pretty badass.
Cause like, I know like people in Canada, I know like, especially like older elderly people and stuff, they'll like, will just not file tax returns for like, getting close to a decade, right? They just don't do it, whatever, it gets busy. But it's like my understanding, and I'm not an expert, is that it's operated on a good bit of good faith of like, you're going to do this. And if we get around to like As long as you file before they catch on to you, it's kind of like, all right, here's a penalty, whatever, yada, yada. But if you don't, and you just happen to come around when your file gets flagged and they're like, this motherfucker hasn't been paying taxes for 10 years, like you're in trouble, like you're going to get caught. And I imagine with the states, because it's just so many more people, that it's like, maybe you could go under the radar for quite a bit longer. But like, is there not a danger of you not paying, them just eventually coming after you, especially as a small business owner or something?
Oh God, no. I mean, first and foremost, like I said, I've actually recently was on a show with a Canadian guy, and we pulled up some of the passport documentation. We pulled up some of the documentation because I had never really looked at it. As far as I can tell, in Canada, there is no second door. There is only one door, which is the Canadian citizen. I could be wrong. I mean, I spent maybe a half an hour digging through it, but my God, your guys' passport form is pretty clear. There doesn't seem to be any real second option at all, right? In America, we have this second option that almost nobody knows about, but it's on all the forms. It's on a firearm forms when you buy firearm, and it's so funny because it's like now everybody's calling me like, I've got this form. I've been doing this shit for 20 years. I've never seen it's right here on the form, right? So a U.S. national or a non-citizen national or a national of the United States, these are terms that are on like every single form, the I-9 form, everything, right? So the thing is we have this like second option that allows us to just literally just exit the system. Like it's super easy, right? But in Canada, but the thing is at the same time, I could sit here and say, well, why wouldn't a Canadian just confer nationality of a state in America upon themselves after birth by any means whatsoever, get themselves an American non-citizen national passport, and now they don't need a Canadian passport anymore? Like, I don't know. Like that's beyond current research. Like I wouldn't be able to really tell you the answer to that.
I've now like staying with the Canadian stuff, like, cause I've seen some of this stuff. Cause I heard you on a different podcast. I listened to an interview where you're saying that like you could commit some crimes where there's not a victim, like not a victim or a violent crime that you could just get away with. Right. Where you can't
when you're a non-citizen national, you're actually an American, right? So what happens is that like the Bill of Rights and the Constitution and everything actually applies to you. Like for example, in America, a lot of people know that like tribes, the local police can only drive right up to the tribal location, and then they can't go into the location of where the tribe is. The tribe has their own private tribal police, right? So tribes in America are all non-citizen nationals. So what happens is their zones become completely foreign countries legally. And that's why people say like their casinos don't pay taxes. Well, yeah, they don't pay taxes because that tribal land is literally policed by the tribal police, and it's considered its own totally separate country, basically, in law, right? So all this information that I'm talking about is all the same information when it comes to tribes and tribal law. But like I said, I don't know if any of that works or applies in Canada. I only know how it works here in America.
Go ahead, Zell.
Well, it makes sense. Like First Nation land, casinos, all that makes sense. It's different governments, different everything. You're still part of the country. So say you remove yourself, you're now a non-citizen national, but you're usually in public roads and public this and public that, and it's all upkept by your fellow public community. How does that work? Do you still pay into property taxes, or how to
No, none of the taxes that you pay in America go to what you think they do. That's a whole nother super long rabbit hole. It doesn't have any, the taxes that you pay has absolutely nothing to do with schools and hospitals and roads. It's completely nothing to do with it at all whatsoever.
So who builds the roads and schools?
Where's the money come from?
Yeah.
They're basically the way that roads and schools and all these things operate off of. They operate the same way that they've operated for a long, long time, even before the government was incorporated. They operate off of what's called trust management organizations, TMOs. So basically, there's these things called TMOs, and basically they're the essentially like how all these things are funded and stuff like that. But you also got to keep in mind too, is County of Los Angeles, City of Los Angeles, and literally anything else you can possibly dream up, they're all corporations. So the thing is that the funding is that you're paying the Internal Revenue Service, which is a private for-profit foreign corporation located in a sub-state of United States called Puerto Rico. That's where the IRS headquarters is actually headquartered at, right? You're paying a private for-profit foreign corporation that's located in a foreign incorporated zone tax money. And then you're expecting that money that you just basically sent to an offshore account to somehow come back around and then be funneled back into the corporation called State of California, or the corporation called County of Los Angeles, or the corporation called City of Los Angeles. It's not really how it works. The IRS, all the money from the IRS goes to the International Monetary Fund. And then actually, ironically enough, then it goes from the International Monetary Fund to the United Nations. The United Nations is behind a lot of shit, guys. I mean,
okay, well, that's still like, what about, let's keep it local then, because local is much easier to, like, so you got local roads, and I mean, maybe not where you are, but you got snow plows and you have all this public works paid for by local property taxes. There's nothing to do with federal. But so if you're removed yourself from that, you don't have to pay into that, but you can still use the roads and shit.
The property tax is a different kind of tax. That's a whole different subject. So what happens is that when you, just a short story on that, the property taxes, the way that works is, so County of Los Angeles is a private for-profit corporation that is physically located in the District of Columbia. So County of Los Angeles holds superior title to your home when you get like a quick claim deed or a guarantor deed, which is like a lower level deed, right? There's a different kind of deed. There's actually a section of the government called the Bureau of Land Management, right? And they hold the original patents that were actually signed by the President of the United States. There's a process where you can actually take that original patent and you can actually bring it to the present time, and you can actually claim that patent on your property, thus releasing interest from the corporation called County of Los Angeles. The product of that process is called a fee simple title, and they actually talk about it on the Governmental Bureau of Land Management website. That's how you get out of paying property taxes. You don't get out of paying property taxes by becoming a non-citizen national.
Well, I'm saying, so you can get out of paying the taxes, but you still get to use everything that is paid for by taxes. It's genius.
It's not paid for by taxes.
It's paid for by someone. Someone builds it. Someone gets paid. It's paid for. Someone does it. Someone builds the roads and clears the roads and sweeps the roads, and that's awesome. It's a fucking genius. You hack the system if that's the case. If you can just live life on what everyone else has done and be like, this is fucking. You guys,
before 1871,
this looks dangerous information, guys. But you can learn it. It's all open. Everyone should do it.
Before 1913, there was no federal income tax. So, you can say to yourself all you want, but the thing is that this country was not built on any sort of taxation system. It was actually built on TMOs, trust management organizations, which, again, it's a long conversation. The thing is that taxes do not do what you think they do. It's all part of the brainwashing. They really don't have anything to do with it.
I'm not a fan of taxes at all. And I agree that originally there was no
taxes every
federal
fucking
tax.
February.
They originally did in Canada was the first federal tax was to pay for World War I, and then it was another 2% here and 4% there and 6% for World War II, and then all of a sudden,
I believe that's the same in America. Actually,
that makes sense.
Yeah. It was I think World War I. Yeah, it was
all the roads and stuff are all done by private and all this and that, and then World War I. They're like, okay, we need to do it. I think it was like something small, like 2% federal tax to pay for the war effort, and then World War I ended, and they said, well, we're going to keep that because we have to rebuild the country. And then World War II came, like, we need 4% more. And by 1960, it was like, oh, we need 20%. And now I think the average tax, if you like that, because progressive tax, but average tax like 28% per person.
In Canada?
Yeah.
Like flat, like because we have state, city, federal.
When did they nationalize your
cigarettes? Take a shit.
No, I'm saying like income tax is the same as the States. It's progressive tax. And the more you make, the more percentage you pay on that bracket. But it all started pre World War I, and it's got to a point now. They're like, they think they're at the most they can take, but they're always like, oh, and then carbon tax, oh, sugar and sweets tax, oh, tobacco tax, oh, alcohol
and
tax,
a fuck you tax,
yeah.
Sunshine tax.
I had a question. So, like, when did you learn this information? How long have you been practicing it? I was kind of curious about.
I've been doing this for probably about a year and a half. But there's a lot of guys who have been doing a lot longer than me. Yeah, I'm new to this scene. I'm just I guess the reason why my shit's gotten so big so fast is fucking huge is because of the way that I do it. I infuse a lot of humor. I basically turn the whole thing into like a Beavis and Butthead, and I've got a lot of like educational history and stuff like that. So like I'm really good at like educating, and I make it like super fucking dumb, and I'm like always cracking jokes and saying crazy shit. And
Buddy,
like,
bring your crowd then. This is perfect.
See,
yeah.
like,
So it's
the one thing, like, because like I've had an opportunity in my life to sit in a lot of courtrooms. I had jobs where I was sitting helping prosecutors for a long time, and I'm telling you right now, in all the years that I got to sit in the back of courtrooms, this stuff is batting zero in the courtrooms in Canada. Like I've seen guys try to pull this stuff off, stop paying their mortgages, and get out of these taxes, lose their homes, like end up in jail.
Wrecked.
And then it just turns into a victim mentality where they're like, but I know this stuff and the judge doesn't know it. He's in the wrong. He doesn't understand. So it's like, what good is this information if it's not like, if when you get to these courtrooms, like you're getting shut down
Canada,
by judges.
I don't know about Canada, but we're having like massive success. I mean, we're not even going into court yet. That's kind of like, there are certain areas, like for example,
but if you're not going into court yet in a year and a half, like court takes a long time. In Canada, I don't know what it is in the States.
No.
Right?
I mean, we're already getting remedy without having to go to court. They're already acquiescing
for what?
before we go into
For
court.
what
income
remedy?
tax or what?
Income tax is easy. That's like eating a ham sandwich. No, but like getting debts to vanish, getting mortgages, getting credit cards, getting cars to vanish. Like I have a whole, if you go on my my fan art and submission page, you'll see just countless amounts of released liens and all sorts of good stuff. And we didn't do any court for any of that. There was never any court for any of that. We're having now with that said, what we're trying to do now is we're trying to do infinite money. So basically what we're trying to do is we're trying to, it's a long story. Again, we're going to be here super long time. But anyways, I'm trying to get infinite money. We've had some success. We're able to get infinite money.
What do you mean infinite money?
So literally infinite money.
Like you have a computer that prints the money.
No. So when you start studying,
you get the bill from Google and you just print it on your computer.
Actually,
we knew a guy who tried this.
You guys are all producing money all the time and you don't even realize it. So for example, I don't know what the Canadian dollar is, but in America we have Federal Reserve notes. You guys have seen Federal Reserve notes before, right?
Yeah.
So the word note means promissory note. Okay. So you start going down this rabbit hole of what the fuck is a promissory note? Well, it's a security. What other names does it go by? It goes by negotiable instrument. Then you start realizing a lot of things about how what we have is we don't really have money, because if you look at Article 1, Section 10 of our Constitution, money is defined only and exclusively as gold and silver coins.
Yeah, we have currency. We don't have money.
We have currency. That's what we have, right? Exactly. So you say to yourself, well, what is currency? Currency is notes. What is notes? Notes are promissory notes.
Agreed.
Then you say to yourself, what's a promissory note? Yeah. Well, the answer to that question is comes from the Uniform Commercial Code, Article 3. The definition of a promissory note has to be written, it has to be an unconditional promise to pay, and it has to be signed. Now think about this. Every time you stick your little credit card in the credit card reader and it kicks out that receipt, what are you doing?
You're printing money.
Just making a promissory note that I'm going to pay that money back.
You're signing a promise to pay, an unconditional promise to pay. It's written. It's an unconditional promise to pay, and you sign it. And I know what you're going to say. I don't always sign them, and sometimes that's all included, because you look at the back of your credit card, it has a signature slot.
Would it be the credit company? Like the credit company.
I never signed the signature slot,
right? Like, and then you're
the one promising to pay. You're the one promising to pay. If you look at a lot of times, even on receipts, like I have a stack here, because sometimes I like to go over this in these shows. So like, here's a receipt here. This one just says customer copy. I agree to pay above total amount according to card issuer agreement, merchant agreement, if credit voucher. So there's always this kind of wording on your receipts. So if you start looking at your receipts, you're going to be pretty blown away. They're all promissory notes. So what you're doing is you're actually manufacturing securities. And what you're doing is you're actually depositing those manufactured securities in your account, which is why at the end of the month, you get a positive value account. You're not getting a negative value account.
We're talking about credit cards here?
Yeah.
The credit card pays the merchant, and then you pay the credit card company.
No. You actually manufacture the currency, but when you sign the security when you sign the promise to pay. So what happens is that when you study the Federal Reserve Act and the way the Federal Reserve works in America, people believe that the government goes to the Federal Reserve to get bonds and this kind of thing. And maybe they do, but how it actually works on a more grounded level is they take those securities that you manufacture and they can actually exchange those securities for Federal Reserve notes as per actually the Federal Reserve Act, Section 16, Part 2. It's called note issues, right? And so what they do is they actually write some terminology on it. It looks kind of like check terminology. And they actually go and they exchange it at what's called the Federal Reserve window, right? So you're actually giving yourself money every time you use your credit card. That's essentially how it works. At the end of the month, there's a way that you can actually claim all of those securities, and you can actually do what's called a set off, which basically means the account clears down to zero. Now, we've had some success with this. We're able to nail this without litigation about 20% of the time. We're able to get these accounts zeroed out. 80% of the time, we're not able to.
So I can go buy a guitar for $2,000 on a credit card. The credit card company pays the guitar shop. Now I owe the credit card company on some.
No. You transfer currency that you manufactured to the banking institution. The banking institution exchanges that promissory note that you created for Federal Reserve notes, places the exchanged Federal Reserve notes on your account, and then at the end of the month, you actually
but the guitar shop gets something. They get the currency, is what I'm saying. They get paid.
Yes.
And then you zero it out. So really, you win.
No. You paid them. You created the currency. The bank never gave you anything.
Sure, but you don't. But if you don't have to pay, then you didn't create nothing.
I feel like this is a quick way to zero your credit score.
This sounds awesome.
No, actually, your credit score goes through the roof when you do this. By the way, that's the weirdest thing.
When I
started doing this. I started doing this, I couldn't believe it because my credit score went from like 780 to like 820, and I was like just laughing like a hyena, bro. I was like crying, laughing. I was like, "What the fuck?"
So I
didn't even know.
Have you bought like a whole house doing this, or what have you? What's the biggest thing you bought?
We're doing a lot of tests. Yeah, we're doing credit card tests.
We a few times. Who's the we?
Dude, I have like a huge, massive following with like tons of fucking research projects, bro. I got so many fucking people doing different things and tests. It's like unbelievable. We got like
how many people?
Groups. Probably like 600 people at least. That's how many are in the private group. But there's more than 600 people doing this. And it's not just me teaching this either. And this is like, I'm just one guy, you know what I mean? But anyways, so infinite money, basically what we're trying to do is, so it's called an endorsement, the way that you sign these securities. So at the end of the month, you get a bill, right? You know how it is. You get a credit card bill, right? When you look at the Bill of Exchange Act and you realize that bill is actually just means bill of exchange. It says literally right in the Bill of Exchange Act of 1882, bill means bill of exchange, note means promissory note, right? So you're not getting a bill, you're actually getting a bill of exchange. So when you understand how bill of exchange work and you understand what you can do with the bill of exchange, you realize that when they send you that bill of exchange, you're actually what's called a holder, or holder in due course, or person entitled to enforce. And what's cool is the UCC stuff that we're using to do all this, I believe, I'm like 99.99% sure it's all the exact same shit in Canada. It's the exact same shit almost everywhere. It's the UCC's in most countries. So you can do this in most countries.
I got a question for you. Are you worried at all? And I know the answer is probably no. I'm just a question because one of the things I read is I read one of the comments someone wrote into your site, and they were like, "I've been trying this shit for 8 years or whatever." They're like, "I've been arrested 21 times. Like I can never get it to work, but now I'm taking your course. I can see the light. Like I'm doing this, and I can't wait to live as a free man." Like, say this guy goes out and he gets arrested another time. Like, are you worried that you holding a course, like you could be liable?
No, God, no. I mean,
right. But if he follows what you're saying and he ends up in jail, say a 22nd time, right? Like, and he follows what you said to a T and he finds himself in jail. Like,
well, you just said
wouldn't that open yourself
said that he's
up?
Finally getting it now. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's, that's not the.
But you've said yourself you've only done it for a year and a half. This guy's been practicing, he says, for 5 to 8 years. I'll
tell you right now, I get a lot of people messaging me all the time, like, "Oh, I've been doing this for 20 years. Like, you can learn so much from me, blah, blah, blah." Like, I don't, that shit, like when I hear 10, 20 years, that usually turns me off more than anything, bro. That just shows stupidity. It's like 10, 20 years and you don't fucking have a bunch of crazy ass shit, like crazy houses and shit. Like, what's wrong with you, bro? Like, I don't consider this stuff to be all that fucking hard, bro. Like, really, I don't.
Sounds like it.
It's really not that fucking complicated. Like, I have some infinite money videos on my YouTube, and literally in like 4 or 5 hours, you can literally start doing this shit. And if they don't, if you're,
I'm still confused. Sorry, I'm still confused on infinite money. So you can just buy shit on credit and then just pretty much say, I'm not going to pay it. And then you're good.
Well,
in simple words, obviously, but that's
the
pretty much
answer
what you
is
said.
yes. But the problem is what people don't realize is that in 1933, when they took away all the gold and silver coins in America during the Emergency Banking Act, they actually said in the Emergency Banking Act that this is how America is supposed to be running. So the thing is that what America actually is it's a completely socialist country that has this like thin, really juicy layer of icing on top of capitalism. It's not a capitalist country. America hasn't been a capitalist country since the emergency. It's not a hybrid. It's the fact that America is capitalist is completely ridiculous. It's not capitalist at all.
Okay. Can we get some of that socialized healthcare then?
Yeah.
So the thing is that when you learn the Emergency Banking Act, when you learn the Emergency Banking Act, all of your healthcare is free. Everything is free. Literally everything is free.
Nothing's free, so someone pays for it, but yeah.
You're paying for it by signing the promissory note.
Right. So you've just unlocked unlimited money. You can get free healthcare, free life insurance, free cars, free houses, free whatever you want.
Yeah. And the cool thing about it is the UCC is almost everywhere.
You got your own house?
I'm in an apartment. This is not a house.
You haven't got the ball in house yet?
No.
Close.
Well, you got to realize I just started really communicating about this, and we're still doing a lot of tests. I mean, this is like brand new. This is like the past couple of months. I have not completed this process.
The full hack.
Like right now, like we're seeing crazy, unprecedented things happening, especially with people who like in the media, podcasts and stuff. We're seeing podcast hosts getting sentenced to jail for inciting, riots, that type of shit. And let's say you've got this big plan and all these people start following the plan, ducking taxes, whatever, and then they start getting arrested. Like, doesn't that scare you a little bit?
Don't they point like they? I would think the first thing that happens is when one of these people gets in trouble, they point the finger to you.
We're not ducking taxes. It's
tax loophole. You're using tax loophole.
Not a tax loophole. Not a tax loophole. A non-citizen national is completely. It's totally fine.
So what?
And then
how do you? So
like everyone's submitting 1040 forms in America, right? 1040 form is a U.S. citizen form. The 1040 NR is the 1040 non-resident alien form, right?
Okay. Can I ask you a quick question?
If you submit a 1040 NR and they accept it, then what's the problem? We're not dodging anything. We're actually
they accept it if it's but if you're misleading them, a bit of it's on good faith. So if you're misleading them and later it comes down the road, like there's going to be consequences to that.
I don't know. I mean, if it hasn't happened yet, I don't know. I mean, you can what if, I guess for the rest, I mean, I could what if for the next 10 years.
This is just a question. Like,
what if for a year?
It says like you were like, what's a common law lawyer in the States? Is that a regular lawyer?
It's called an attorney in fact.
Attorney in fact. So is that what you did for currency before this? Or what do you do? Do you still do that? Or what do you do for money?
No. My background is mainly like marketing and sales and building businesses.
Yeah. Right. So you paid all income taxes, all that until the last year and a half when you figured out this hack.
Yeah. Well, no, until I corrected my nationality.
Right. But now what are you doing?
Now I'm doing this full time. But the thing is that I've already discharged like $460,000 in debt. I cleared all my debt out to zero. So I was like way ahead already.
Nice.
Wow.
Yeah, but you're getting paid by your followers.
Someone's got to be paying
as well, right?
No. I literally just started taking on clients like 2 months ago. But I've been doing this for about a year and a half.
Yeah, so a lot of your content, all those videos are free, right? Like
everything I do is free. My whole website, all my courses, everything, literally everything is free.
So have you done any court cases like in the courtroom?
Never had to. We've always won before it got that far. The only time we've never won before it got that far was with my American Express Infinite Money stuff. They closed all my accounts, but I'm learning. They closed all the accounts, but they also discharged $176,000 in debt. So I didn't have to pay
huge. That's a fucking huge win.
That's a huge win.
You know,
That's huge.
Yeah,
it's
like,
huge, but I want that account to stay open. So I'm going to litigate, but I'm going to be the plaintiff. So they're going to be the defendant. That's coming down the pipeline right now.
Is like, how long does, because you've been doing this a year and a half. This is the one thing that boggles me as a Canadian who's been around the courtroom process, is how fast is a court turnaround in the States? Because for you to tell me that you have this much kind of like dealing with these kind of court cases and stuff boggles my mind, because I'm like, there's no fucking way you would get through these things in this amount of time. There's just not enough time for how backlogged the court system is.
No.
Like,
what I mean is that there's no complaints being filed. They acquiesce before we go to litigation. It's already a done deal. They shut the book. They don't want to go to litigation.
So for that to be the case, like they don't want to go to litigation, means that if America follows a similar system to Canada, the common law, which I imagine it does, there must be precedent of people winning court cases doing the same thing, or they would go to court. Right? There has to be.
They would only go to court if they knew they could win, regardless of anything else.
That's what I mean. So someone like yourself had to have gone to court prior, probably multiple times, and won in court, and now they can reference that court case and be like, court X versus Y won this trial, so therefore
it's not based on precedent. It's based off of the code. Like, for example, a precedent is not anywhere near as powerful as just knowing UCC Article 3, the actual code involving the way that these instruments actually work.
So is it different than in the States? Is there's not based on precedent is the law?
A lot of people use precedent, but precedent by definition is nothing more than an interpretation of the codes. So like, I don't really teach or get into a ton of precedent in my learning and my educational stuff, because why would you want an interpretation of the code when you could simply use the code? Which is why if you use precedent, there's a chance they may litigate, because they're like, well, this is just a fucking interpretation. But if you use the actual codes, and if you realize that every single section in all of law starts with a definition section that define in great fucking wild detail every single word used in the code, and you call all those definitions and you connect them all into the code, and you use all of that for all of your documentation, they can't litigate. What's the fucking point? Waste money? Why would you waste money on that? It's an undefeatable position.
I'm just asking personal curiosity. If someone like yourself have ever gone to court that you know of, with that, say they've had credit cards came back at him for $200,000 in court, and he went there with all the documentation. He's like, listen, there's no chance. And the judge went, you're right. Case dismissed. Boom. And then that's now precedent. That's what I'm asking.
I don't even know, because like in Canada, that wouldn't even have to go to court. Like ever, like a creditor wouldn't need to go to court. They would go to, like, they might go to court to garnish wages or something, but like, there's other avenues outside of court for them to take, rather than it's not like they have to sue you for that money because you've owed it. Right. So it's an interesting caveat.
America's not like that. Yeah. They have to. So the way it works in America is they have to file a complaint first, then the court approves the complaint, then they send the complaint back to you with a stamp on it. Right. Like, now it's your job to serve those documents on the other party or parties. Right. So a lot of times you'll use the U.S. Marshal Service to do that. They have a little form that you fill out. It's like $50, and they'll go and they'll send a U.S. Marshal, and they'll serve the documents, and then they write up a little thing. Officer blah 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 of the U.S. Marshal served blah 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 documents on blah 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 date to blah 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 person. That's basically in America how you activate a lawsuit. Okay, and then from there, they have 30 or 60 days to respond to that complaint. And then they respond to the complaint, and then now you have 30 or 60 days to respond to whatever they said. And then what you do is you do what's called motions. So you motion for a bench trial. You motion for a jury trial. You're moving. Motion means to move the court to take some kind of an action.
I mean, you could. Your best bet would be go jury trial and then just try to convince people, but like, fuck the system.
Well, no, the thing is that we're not even. They don't even like. I remember the only time I ever had anything happen was, I can actually show you guys this. It's pretty funny. So I had when I was doing the American Express thing for the $176,000. Now I'll tell you, my documentation when I did this is like 1/1000th as awesome as the documentation that we're doing now. This is a while ago. This is like a year ago. So I did have some lawyers that started coming around, because it went to collections, and then they said, oh, we're going to sue you and this and that. So what I did was hold
on. It went to collections, and so you never paid collections.
Well, no, I sent them documentation as well, being like, all right, like, you guys need to get rid of this because of this, and if you don't, we're going, this is going to become.
Yeah, but so my understanding of collections is that like collections, like they buy the contract, they buy the debt, right? They buy the debt and they come after you for it, and they come after more.
No, they can be contracted to collect, or they can buy. This one didn't buy; they were contracted to collect. But anyways,
but are you not concerned that maybe you just had that, like you say you're free and clear, but are you sure? Like it's only been a year and a half.
Right here. I'm going to show you right here.
Oh, perfect.
So Alltrand Financial. This is the collection agency that was contracted. They didn't buy it because I asked that. They were contracted to collect it, right? They hired this law firm, Sessions, Israel, and Shardle, which is hilarious. Shardle.
Sure, that's great.
So I sent American Express and this law firm and Alltrand Financial and all three credit reporting agencies a very strong letter going through how these are various felonies and kind of like how these are negotiable instruments and kind of like the whole 9 yards, like a lot of what we've gone over in this show, plus a whole lot of other information, right? And you can see here, they received the letter, right? Yeah. While Alltrand denies any and all alleged wrongdoing, Alltrand has made the business decision to cease collection of the account. Alltrand did not credit report the account. I told them, if you report this, I'm coming after you, right? So they didn't report it. Okay. And this is from November 3rd, 2022, right? Now, my credit report is clean and I've gotten absolutely nothing since November 3rd, 2022. We're a little over a year from that. So you can say like, oh, what if in 15 years? What if in 15 years anything? I could be dead
and
tomorrow.
How much is the debt?
177,000, something like that.
I'm telling you, it's not going to be 15 years. It's going to be quicker than that, man. They're coming back. Like just because that collection agency
as many times as they want. They can come back as many times. I got no issues, man. They can come back. I'll have a beer with them, bro. I don't care. They're getting buried. They're getting fucking buried. There's no question about it, bro. Like actually, in fact, they can come for me, but I'm going to start coming for them before they start coming for me. Because I'm going to start filing my complaints probably within the next 3 months.
So if you can get unlimited money, can you get us a 20 grand marketing campaign and then wipe it out for us?
Yeah, I mean the way that it works with infinite money is you're basically starting a trust with the banking institution, right? So as far as I know, you're the beneficiary of that trust. So like the way it works is you pretty much can only do things of which benefits you, and to do things that don't would kind of like violate the trust to some degree.
So if you try to go get a mortgage right now, like wouldn't it show under your liabilities that you have an outstanding debt of $117,000 or whatever?
It's all wiped.
But it's only been wiped by collections, you showed us. It doesn't mean it's been wiped by American Express.
I sent stuff to the credit reporting agencies. They took all that shit down. It's all gone. It's really easy, bro. It's so fucking easy.
I guess that brings me to my last question.
Easy it is.
So the way you explain it, you got all the documentation, all the subsections and all of that. Why is this not more of a thing? And are you worried that if you keep exposing this, that they will just axe this out like some government amendment, and just is all gone?
No. The only way they're going to be able to axe this out is by putting us back on the gold and silver standard, which frankly, I'd be thrilled about that. I would love if that happened. That would change everything, and it would annihilate all inflation that we've had since 1913. The buying power of the American dollar, which would actually be a real American dollar at that point, be a greenback or a silver certificate. The power of the American dollar would go all the way back to what it was in 1913. And I think right now we're at like a fraction of a penny of what it was worth in 1913.
It's down 99%.
Yeah. So it's over. So imagine in America having 100 times the buying power you have now. It's unbelievable. You could work at McDonald's flipping burgers, have a brand new fucking huge house, 4 brand new cars, bicycles, 5 kids.
Well, I mean, it's not that easy because the population's gone up and they would have to still increase the amount of gold supply, inflate the
But you know what I mean, though. You know what I mean. It would be
every generation's been better off since they got rid of the gold standard. I agree, 100%. I mean,
so the thing is that. So the whole point, I mean, now there's also another option. The Emergency Banking Act says that this is how we're supposed to be doing everything. They said when they took away all the gold and silver coins, they actually created this system, and we're supposed to be just basically discharging everything. And I can actually show you evidence on that. That's actually really easy to find. That actually comes from, I I believe it's 18 USC 8. Let me see here. This is pretty mind-blowing. So 18 USC 8 is based off of the Emergency Banking Act, right? And it says here, obligation or other security of the United States defined, right? The term obligation or other security of the United States includes all bonds, certificates of indebtedness, national bank currency, Federal Reserve notes, Federal Reserve bank notes, coupons, United States notes, Treasury notes, gold certificates, silver certificates, fractional notes, certificates of deposit, bills, which are bills of exchange, even your bills, checks, drafts and check basically means the same thing. So you can see here literally everything, even your own bills in America are actually obligations or other securities of the United States. It's all debt that the private for-profit foreign corporation owes. It has nothing to do with you. And you say, oh, it's got your name on it. Well, yeah, it's got your name on it, but that name is just a public corporation that was opened by the government when you were born. Even the name is actually property of the government. So it's an obligation.
Don't your parents actually open up your name, submit your name and submit for a social insurance number and all that? The government doesn't do that.
So when that gets done, when they process the birth certificate at the Department of Health and Human Services, the Department of Health and Human Services is what opens that public corporation.
Yes, so you register yourself as a citizen of the United States, not a sovereign citizen of the United States of America.
Yeah. So when you go through that whole birth certificate, social security number process, the government opens up what's called a public corporation. So that name that you think is on those bills, that's just the name of a corporation that's owned by the government, because that bill is actually an obligation or other security of the United States as per the Emergency Banking Act. So that's why I told you, like, America is like so fucking socialist, bro. It's like if there was like 1 to 20 million scale, it's like 20 million on the socialist scale. That's how fucking socialist America is.
I would say probably not, but that's just my opinion, I guess. Compared to other socialist nations, I think America is not quite as socialist as it could be.
America is a completely socialist nation that has this like weird fake illusion of it being capitalist. It's sort of like super.
Well, there'd be no billionaires in a socialist state. There wouldn't be. I mean, in the technical term of socialism, there'd be no billionaires, and there's more. Well, think about this:
they're billionaires that have billion of what? They have a billion promissory notes called Federal Reserve notes.
But
they don't have any money.
I mean, the super yachts, they got them somehow.
I mean, technically, you're right about them not having money. It's really just stock in their company.
They
like
have stock.
Something like Tesla. Yeah, like Tesla is
billionaires
like really
take their stock,
money and their company.
And they borrow against it.
They take their stock and they borrow against it. That's how they get their money. Everyone knows. Well, not everyone, but it's pretty common.
Well, they
now.
do a lot of other crazy shit too. Like if you want to be a real billionaire, a lot of what the billionaires do is so let's say you have a hospital, or let's say you have literally anything that processes applications or promissory notes of any kind, like for example, a mortgage, right? Like, so let's say you want to be a billionaire in America in 10 seconds. All you do is you open up a mortgage company, right? The mortgage documentation itself is a promissory note. So when you sign it, the mortgage documentation, the actual mortgage application becomes a security.
Yeah, I saw that one kid who did that, and he was the richest man in the world for a second.
Yeah, so here's actually, I'll show you guys how this works.
And then they're like, he didn't get to do anything with that.
Well, yeah, this is kind of like the current major research that we're doing right now. Okay, so on the back of a check, you see the word endorsement, right? There's a lot of different ways to endorse. There's a qualified endorsement, a conditional endorsement, a blank endorsement, a restrictive endorsement. Okay, so when you just sign like this on the back of anything, or on your mortgage documentation, or on your car, or any promissory note, anytime you're signing an unconditional promise to pay, you're not really signing, you're actually endorsing a security. Okay. Now, when you understand how that works, and you understand that, so if you look at the Bill of Exchange Act of 1882, right, and this is kind of some of the stuff I was telling you about earlier, right? You have bill means bill of exchange, and note means promissory note, right? Holder means the payee or endorsee of a bill or note who is in possession of it, or the bearer thereof, right? So when they slide the mortgage documentation across the table to you, you become the holder, right? The holder is the one who calls all the shots. The holder is the one who says everything that's going to be happening with this particular security, right? Now, what you're doing and not knowing it is you're doing what's called a blank endorsement. A blank endorsement is a signature on a financial instrument. It's no payee is specified, so the holder of the instrument could claim payment, right? So what you're doing is you're just releasing it and saying, hey, anyone who wants this can have it. That's what a blank endorsement is. Now, what happens is that the mortgage company, what they do is they take that instrument that you have now so graciously gifted to them that's worth the full value of the entire loan, and they write a restrictive or qualified or full endorsement on it that looks like this. We've been having people go out and get copies of their mortgages, and we've been getting a lot of pictures of the various endorsements. Here's another one here. Here's another one here. Here's another one here. It's the same document. Here's another one here. And basically what they do is they actually take these instruments and they basically, you gave away the instrument. You said, hey, I don't want this. I don't need this. And you released it. You were the holder. You were calling the shots. They get the instrument and now they write, without recourse, pay to the order of Bank of America N.A. by : sign, name, title. What people don't realize is that when you're sitting there and you're about ready to buy your brand new car or your brand new house, you can do this same kind of endorsement on the documentation yourself. You can write without recourse, which means basically once you process this, you can never litigate against me. That's it. It's over. Without recourse is like the ultimate litigation insurance. Pay to the order of, which is the same terminology you see on your checks.
I'll tell you right now, that does not work in Canada at all.
I wouldn't think so.
Well, if the UCC...
This specific thing I'll tell you firsthand, does not work 0% of the time. It may take a while to get to court. You might drive that car for quite a while. Never works. I've seen people come in and argue this. It does not work in the court of law. I think that's where this kind of falls flat for me in Canada. Anyway, I don't know.
We can only talk about Canada,
but it works great in America.
It scares me, but it scares me because you've only done it for a year and a half, so you don't know if there's ramifications, coming down the pipe for you doing these things.
No.
I don't know. It's not the same. It's not the same.
No. You have to actually. I mean, I always say the same thing. You have to really study the Bill of Exchange Act. You have to really study Article 3.
But I'm saying there's people that their whole life study these things, and you've done it for a year and a half, and you think you've swindled them into I actually have this upper hand on them.
Hey, I don't know what to tell you, bro.
That's what scares me.
We're having crazy fucking success, bro. Like crazy. So maybe America is just different. I don't tell you.
America is different.
The results speak for themselves.
Yeah,
America's a different country. It's a different set of laws, different legal system. So in Canada, not going to work. But America, I'm not going to.
Now you have to litigate. The thing is that if someone might try this, like for example, we have a lot of people who do this, and then what happens is they get a phone call and they say there's something wrong with your documents. You have to come and re-sign them. And it's like, what's wrong with the documents? I don't know. I was just told by my superior that you have to come in and re-sign them because there's something wrong with the signature. That's a lot of times what they say, right? The thing is, if the car was already issued to the person after they did a restrictive or full endorsement, the thing is that if you litigate or if you so much as even file the complaint, they will immediately acquiesce in the courts.
So wait,
instantly.
So you go to buy a car and you bring your own stamp with you that says without recourse, pay to the order of blah, 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 and you sign it, you're good. That's what you're saying.
You don't need a stamp. You can actually just write this with an ink pen.
But wouldn't the other party have to sign it as well for it to be legal?
The thing is that they don't understand any of this well enough. Once they take the documentation from you, so basically the way it works is you go to UCC 3-603 section B, tender of payment, right? So tender means an unconditional offer, or once you slide the documentation across the table, you just tendered. That's the definition. Tender means unconditional offer. They accepted that offer. And you can see that same terminology in the Bill of Exchange Act. Acceptance means accepted, completed by delivery or notification. So the way it works is once you tender that restrictively endorsed instrument, once they accept the instrument, which means literally just physically take it from you, it's all over.
But what I mean is, so you buy a brand new car, it's $50,000. The dealership, they sign it, they slide it to the table, you write another thing on it, you sign it, you slide it back, and it goes, gotcha, bitch. Is that what you're saying? Because they haven't, you've altered the contract when you write that But after
No. You have not altered the contract
Sure you
at
have.
all.
You've changed the wording at the end of the contract saying without recourse. Here we go. I signed it. I slide it back to you now. Now the car is mine.
But I think the thing is like if you pay.
You aren't changing the contract at all. What you're doing is the instructions that you're writing on the endorsement, it has to do only with the application being a security. It doesn't change the actual contract. The contract is the same. So the contract says you promise to pay this much money within this much time. When you restrictively endorse the instrument and you force them to exchange that instrument and then bring that money back and pay yourself with it and put it on your own account, you zero out, and you basically, the second you sign the contract, you've just completed performance of that contract. The whole contract, the performance of the 30-year loan of a mortgage, instantly, as soon as you sign it, is instantaneously completed.
So
it's as if you
get a free house
in time 30 years.
You get a free house. There you go.
You get a free house.
All right.
But then why don't you have a house?
You what?
Why don't you have a house then?
I don't need a house. I don't want a house. I mean, we have a lot of people who are doing houses right now.
But like when you post these things,
this is
in LA.
Brand new in LA. That fucking apartment's probably worth 4 houses.
All this information is brand new, bro. We're doing a lot of research. I do not claim to have all of this completely nailed down. We are doing houses. We are doing business loans. We are doing SBA, COVID, EIDL loans. We are doing all sorts of real estate deals. We're doing all sorts of things. I do not have this.
Yeah, but it's only been a year and a half, so you don't know if it works. The other thing is like when you show us these pictures of those people who have stamped or altered the contract, but it's like if you're coming in and I go out to Ford tomorrow, buy a car, and I write without recourse, sign my name, slide it, and then I make all my payments for the next 6 years or however. Who gives a shit that I wrote that? Like you're saying that if I'm telling you right now that if those people who wrote that stop paying, those cars are getting repossessed. Like that's what happens.
We have tons of people who walk away and don't pay and there's not getting repossessed. Now, the thing is that sometimes they do, but the thing is you have to actually litigate, but oftentimes they are not. We are moving into a litigation phase right now. We are going to get enforcement of the laws. We are going to get enforcement of the UCC Article 3. We're going to do it through the courts. We've already had a lot of success with that, but it hasn't become like the main focus is not litigation. We're able to win very often pre-litigation. So right now we're going into a litigation phase because the thing is that with the IRS, it's really, really easy to get them to follow Article 3 of the UCC. With a lot of the governmental agencies, it's really, really easy for them to follow this information. Credit card companies and mortgage companies, it's not easy. And we're finding, like I said, our success rate, when we first started doing this, our success rate was like 2%. I was doing all sorts of crazy shit. Like there was one time period where we still do it sometimes. We were sending in Polaroids of us in like goofy outfits with our documentation. We went through all kinds of fucking permutations of all kinds of different things that I was testing, right? We've gotten it up to about, like I said, 20% of the time pre-litigation, we're able to get them to completely acquiesce, set off our accounts.
What about the other 80%?
Everything out. The other 80% is not a success. And the only way, in my opinion, it means that the accounts get closed. It means the accounts get closed.
But you still have to pay or not have to pay?
No, you do not have to pay. So the thing is that's a success.
That's success. That's huge.
Some people think that's a success. I did at that time think that was a huge success, yes. But at this time, I don't consider it to be a success because that's not what the law says. The law says that you're supposed to pay, you're supposed to do whatever the fuck you want with your credit, and then the government or the fucking banking institution is responsible for it because that's an obligation or other security of the United States. So the thing is that infinite money is what we're all supposed to have. It's a totally socialist economy.
Well, I mean, the infinite money doesn't work because money has to be scarce in order to be effective, right? That's like the number one rule of money.
There's also, there's a lot of different ideas on different.
And that's the reason our current money does not work because it's not scarce, especially during the last few years when you could take billion-dollar loans at 2% and just use that as cash, and then then you could fractionalize 10% of that, and then 90% of that
for everybody,
and
everyone
then everyone gets inflated. So that's if everything's infinite, that would be extreme inflation. There would be no dollars. There would be everyone has money. And everything's going to cost $8,000 for a fucking chocolate bar. That's on infinite money. That's where it goes.
The thing is that that's how the Emergency Banking Act is written, bro. You're supposed to just literally, it's just like, it doesn't really mean much of anything. And you say to yourself, oh, the economy is going to collapse and all these horrible things.
Well, don't you just say like everything's socialist? Like, and you don't like, you kind of say it in like a negative way, which I agree. Like socialism is in its true form has never worked. But you're saying everything's so socialist. I don't say it. But then you also say unlimited money. Then you say unlimited money. So if everyone had unlimited money, that's unlimited socialism, what you just said. And then everything just dies because there's no competition. There's no reason to work. Everyone just has unlimited money. And you just do whatever you want.
But the thing is that idea is sort of like, okay, I think of it in the same light, but on the opposite end of the token, right? You're a lot of people's idea is this like punishment drive mentality, which is where if you will die if you don't work to make money to support yourself, right? But on the opposite end of the spectrum, and we could say what if, because none of us have the answer to this question. You don't really know. None of us actually really know. If everyone had infinite money, which is exactly what we're supposed to be doing as per the Emergency Banking Act, people would just get bored and start doing shit. Would everyone be doing shit? No. But I think a lot of people would still be doing shit. You'd be bored. You wouldn't have the punishment.
Would everybody be working enough to make all the goods and services and products that we need for everyone unlimited money to buy?
Nobody's been doing the shitty jobs. I'll tell you that.
All I got to say is you got some pretty blank walls for having infinite money, man. You got to decorate those walls up, buddy.
It's got some Picasso up there or something.
I literally just moved in here.
He's got a literally just what's the weird? That's like a kind of American flag. What is that? Kind of.
That's an American peace flag. So it's basically. The normal flag that you see everywhere in America is actually a wartime flag because we've essentially been at war forever. This is actually the pre-war. So people would have either I'm part of this war or I'm not part of this war. This is the I'm not part of the war flag.
Gotcha.
It's called a civil peace flag.
All right, man. So we're out of time. So where can people, if the people want to know more, I mean, obviously we know it doesn't work in Canada, but in the States, we don't know. So if people want to know, if they're in the States and they want to know more about it, where should they go?
I don't know. The Canada thing, like I was saying, dude.
No, we know. This guy knows. Trust me. He knows. He's
I'm telling you. I'm telling you.
I'm not talking about the financial stuff. I'm talking about the idea that a Canadian could get an American passport through naturalization.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so if people want to find more about that, like about your stuff, where can people, where's the best place? Your website is
onestupidfuck.com, bro.
And then Instagram, same name, same type.
Or myfaceisachair.com.
Or myfaceisachair.com. Yeah. For the ladies.
Yeah.
And you've written a couple books so they can find your books on your website and all the rest, or?
Yeah, the books don't have anything to do with any of this, but yeah, I wrote a couple books, yeah.
All right, we're going to take a short break. We're going to let Brandon go, and we're going to be back with After Hours for the Patreon supporters. For everybody else, we'll see you next week. Peace.